Duran here for terrible damage, bringing you a ZVZ on Shakuras Plateau. Looks like we're close by air. So starting with the red Zerg in the bottom left, we have Obelisk and his opponent in the bottom right, the blue Zerg Civilian. Now if we look at the production right now, we aren't seeing any drones built for Obelisk. So looks like we're going to have a 6 pool. Actually 7 pool. He built 1 drone, but okay, so we'll have to see what Civilian does here. Against pool first, definitely very holdable. Against hatch first, that's where this kind of build can be tricky. Though most tend to agree that the most difficult thing to hold is a 8, 9, 10 pool all in with drones. In terms of against a hatch first. But we'll have to see. He's almost up to 14 drones. So normally you'll see either a pool or a gas on 14 if you're going to go pool first in sort of a more economical fashion. Now we do have a drone moving out in advance here of any Zerglings coming out. So presumably he's going to try and use this to get a spine started ahead of time. That really can make a huge difference in this 6 pool all-in. If you get a spine down and started well before the Zerglings get in, that makes a big difference. And we do have the hatch first here out of Civilian, so this will make it very difficult. And here come those 6 Zerglings, 2 more going to be rallied in. We'll have to see how Civilian responds. I don't know what kind of scouting information, if any, he has. He's not even going to see this until now. He'll be able to see with this Overlord that there are Lings on the way, but I don't think he had vision of the foremost 6, and there's nothing he can really do at this point. He's already got his cool down. He's just going to have to deal with what he's got right now. He needs to ignore this. He needs to ignore this hatch. No, he should not be attacking this hatch at all. This is a waste of time. That was a waste of a lot of seconds there by Obelisk, but he now moves in. So Civilian was fortunate. He got some extra time. Gets a full surround on the Zerglings that were attacking that spawning pool. So it looks like Civilian's going to get out of this pretty well. His spawning pool is now done. Now, the spine crawler did not make it up. Just a couple more Lings moving in. This hatch will finish. Zerglings are coming out now for Civilian. Just 4 here at the main base of Civilian. He's just going to poke away on this hatch, but it will not go down before these Zerglings come out. Now there are more Zerglings on the way, so Civilian's going to need to continue production, going to move down with several drones. That looks like a good idea just to back up his Zerglings here. And here come a few more Lings, but also rallying in is Civilian. If we look here at the drone count, it is 10 to 8, but Civilian has his natural up, and that is a big difference because that is extra larva that he has. And kills 1 more drone, so 8 drones to 9, so it's not completely one-sided here, and looks like Obelisk is going to get speed right away here, at least gas right away. We'll have to see what he's going to use it for. Civilian rallying over more Lings. Obelisk now takes a drone lead as he makes a couple drones as the Lings are moving out. We'll have to see what he has to defend that. He does have a queen out. We do not have any queens on the field right now for Civilian, but doesn't need it immediately as he does have the extra larva from that second hatch. In comes 6 Lings now. There is a queen here, and more Zerglings going to pop out, so these are not going to be able to do anything. He wants to get out of there quickly, but doesn't. It looks like he's just going to straight up lose these Lings. The queen, he does not get the queen. 4 hit points remaining. He definitely shouldn't have gotten it, and he didn't, but he made it very, very close. So both sides it's not tilted completely in one side, but Civilian's got to be feeling pretty good about his situation. He's got his hatch up. His opponent doesn't. He's been able to move into a drone lead now, getting a spine crawler up, and going to be getting a second as well. And in production, we do have 12 Zerglings on the way, so it looks like it's just going to be a more one base. Not going to go for that expansion. Straight up, he's not mining any more gas, just got the 104 metabolic boost. Looks like he's going to move out with a ton of speedlings and go for it. Now the thing is, Civilian at least knows that there isn't a completed hatch because the creep would be in view. Here comes Sumlings. He doesn't Obelisk doesn't show his full hand as he hides the rest of his lings, but as time goes on, Civilian's going to know to add on more and more defense as he fails to see any sort of expansion out of his opponent. Now in terms of tech, we don't have metabolic boost completed for, or even started for Civilian, but he does have a defensive Baneling Nest on the way. So if he's up against nothing but unupgraded speedlings, that will be a huge help. More spine crawlers on the way as he sees those lings moving out. You're going to be building an Evo chamber to block. However, it is not a full wall, and they just run into the main. He's just going to bypass these spine crawlers entirely. Civilian made an attempt to block, but he doesn't. And they move into the main, going to fight with some of the drones, but now moves down to the natural. A bit surprising seeing Obelisk move down into the natural as opposed to take out the tech facilities of Civilian, now going in for that spawning pool. So unfortunately for Civilian, the wall does not work, and there's 5 HP left on that spawning pool, but that one Baneling they was able to get was not able to finish off those Zerglings. On the field right now, Civilian has just 2 Zerglings. He's morphing in 6 more Banelings to deal with these Zerglings. The Baneling Nest will now go down as well. Look at workers killed. 17 workers killed. It's now 21-14 in favor of Obelisk. Now the Ling's not really supporting. Oh, and a missed micro. Loses all of those Lings to 2 Banelings. Just 1 Zergling left in the main. And now the favor goes over to Obelisk with his drone count. However, he is now just taking his expansion. I don't know about how effective this will be, trying to move out with 2 Slowlings and 4 Banelings. But we'll have to see if Civilian is able to make this work in his favor right now. Not really much of any defense here. If he walks right into the main, he may be able to do a lot of damage with some good control here. So we'll have to see if these Banelings can do anything. Oh, but the roaches come out just in time, and the Baneling's not able to connect. 1 Baneling only explodes on 2 drones. 1 Baneling not enough to kill any drones. And now Obelisk looking very safe in this game. 3 roaches on the field, getting his natural up. However, at this point, with that 7 spine crawlers, Civilian's got to feel pretty safe about droning up pretty heavily right now, especially since he sees Obelisk teching into roaches. He knows he's safe for now because those spine crawlers will do wonders against roaches. So he really just needs to drone up and get himself back in a better economic position in this game. Going into lair himself. Now Obelisk going into double gas at this natural before even saturating it. Not sure if he's actually going to be able to spend all of that immediately if he doesn't add on any more drones, but here come 5 more drones. And it'll be interesting to see where this game lands as it starts to balance out once again. 34 drones for Civilian, 28 for Obelisk, but the supply is in Obelisk's favor with the roaches out. So we'll have to see where this goes. Civilian going in for Spire Tech. So far we don't see any sort of layer tech coming out of Obelisk, despite starting it a little sooner. And there's the Spire. So both sides going into Spire. So this looks like it will be moving into a Muta versus Muta battle. So what you're going to want to pay a lot of attention to is that upgrade. The +1 air carapace is a big deal in Muta versus Muta, as it really negates those bounces on those glaive attacks. So you'll often see players go for the carapace as opposed to the attack when it's Muta versus Muta, because ultimately you're going to have to face off against each other in one big Muta battle. And when both sides go in for Muta, there's kind of a point of no return, where you both just have to make as many as possible and hope you come out with more and win the big engagement. You can do some Zergling harass in the meantime, but it's really about just building up that Mutalisk count. Now Obelisk going in for a third, it looks like. That looks like it could really play in his favor if he's able to hold it, as he is going to want that extra gas to build up the larger Mutalisk count over his opponent. It's also a good idea, as you'd expect your opponent to be turtling when he has 7 spine crawlers on the field. So the first mutas popping out for Civilian, but the first mutas will be coming out for Obelisk just about when they get there. So he's going to have to be very careful not to lose too many here, as he's going to need the reinforcement Mutalisks. And there's the first mutas. Seeing those, he's got to be very careful here. He's going to engage if they're not all together. Picks one off, but here come the rest. And Civilian's going to have to get out of there, as Obelisk has the superior Mutalisk count, now just building 3 more. As it did look like Civilian was staying on top of the macro during that harassment, and that could come back to bite him as these mutas come out. But it looks like a stray Mutalisk will come in and loses another one. So far, Obelisk has lost 2 mutas here pretty much for free. 2 spores going down on Civilian's side. Looks like so far Obelisk not going to bother with any sort of spore crawlers himself. However, he does have this third completed. The gas going to be going up there in a moment once the drones get there to build it. A transfuse there on the Muta, very nice. So we look at the drone count right now, 45 to 41, both pretty well saturated on 2 base, but Obelisk does have that third. We'll have to see what these Zerglings can do in the meantime. There's not a huge number, and the Roaches are in position to intercept any sort of harass here at this third base. And with the surround, they might have been able to take those out just barely, but the Lings just run in, get by, and now will get out most likely. Though weirdly attacking there. Here come the mutas across the map. If we look here, Obelisk, his Mutalisk will be moving in the other direction. Muta count right now 20 to 19, very even. The carapace is going to be completed for Civilian much earlier though. So if he's able to exploit that timing, he may be able to take a big lead in Mutalisk. Here comes Queens, here come Mutas, and loses one in exchange. There goes a second Mutalisk, and here comes the engagement as Civilian does not engage with all of his Mutas. So Obelisk coming across with a bit better control in that engagement, attacking with everything. Civilian was split up a bit. Civilian adding on more and more Queens, but the creep spread is not there right now. He's going to be in a very good defensive position, but it's going to be very difficult to come out ahead in this game, as he is kind of trapped here on 2 base, as his opponent does have a third up, though not very well saturated. He is getting the extra gas for the Mutalisk count. What I would like to see out of one of these players is, if they're not going to be transitioning out of Mutalisk into something like Infestors to help support, then to go into double Spire and double upgrades, because this is where your resources are going. investing yourself in these mutalisks. Now with that extra gas, Obelisk is starting to take a lead. However, there's a lot of gas built up for Civilian. There we go, 5 more mutas on the way, but 5 more also coming for Obelisk. So he's starting to pull away in that muta count, 30 to 20, 26 in just a moment. A lot of queens on the field though, so in a straight up battle here on Civilian's ground, he should be able to hold. Oop. We'll have to see how that turns out. Here comes the battle, but with all of these queens here, this is not a battleground that he wants to fight in. Loses 2 mutas, 3, 4. Oh, that's a bit rough. Loses 4 mutas, but Civilian has 1 astray here, pulls it back. So that was not a good engagement for Obelisk at all, but definitely going to help Civilian gain a better position where he was starting to fall rather behind. I would still say that Obelisk is in a better position. 55 drones to 38, 27 mutas to 28, but does have the better gas income. As we look at the incomes, looks like he's exactly the way it should, which is 2/3 with about 33% more gas than his opponent. Now these queens are pushing across the map, so they're starting to get a much better presence. Obelisk is going to want to impose a bit more with his superior mutalisk count, though. That means outmaneuvering these queens. Even though there is good creep spread, there's no way for the queens to keep up with these mutas. So if he moves into the main, the only thing there to stop him are these spore crawlers. And unless he wants to spend all of those spores, all of his resources into these spores, it's not going to really help him. And here we go again, another big engagement. 1-1 for Obelisk, but +2 carapace for Civilian. Obelisk about to complete +2 flyer attacks though to help negate that. $33 to 28 in terms of the mutas as these queens continue to move across the map. Now Civilian has added in these corruptors, but the thing that Obelisk really needs to exploit is his mobility. Right now, he can outmaneuver his opponent, and if he's relying on these corruptors to maneuver around, then Obelisk can completely avoid him. And if Civilian wants to move right into Obelisk's turf, he's got more mutas, and that corruptor count, while it will help, shouldn't make the difference. And now we're getting more of a push as this gets across the map. And I'd like to see Obelisk be more aggressive and have more of a map presence here. Civilian not targeting very well, and here comes the big muta flock picking off all of these corruptors. Gets several of them, but here are the queens to help engage, and I'm not sure Obelisk wants to engage here without any support. This is going to be close, but with all of these queens, I don't think he can win that battle. Obelisk still does maintain a much superior muta count, and with this far better economy, may be able to just strangle his opponent here. With all of those resources and all of these queens here on the ground, without a lot of ground support, I would like to see a large number of lings come out to support these mutas. But he's almost out of time here, and not engaging very well, not engaging with the majority of his forces, loses several mutalisks there. And Obelisk is under pressure. He just needs to hold off this push, and Obelisk should have this game. So he needs to be very careful about how he engages this. We currently have 21 queens on the field. The Muta's at this point right now. If he needs to determine that he's not going to win this. Winning this battle is not going in Obelisk's favor, going very heavily in civilians, as well as going to take out this hatch. It looks like the Muta's going down both sides, going way down in supply. It's still very even in supply, but the thing is, that is largely in worker supply for Obelisk, as he is way ahead in workers, 68 to 38, which means he does not have the army supply to take out civilian. Still producing Mutalisks, but there are only 4 on the field for Obelisk at this point in time. And now moving into that 4th. Now bear in mind, Civilian is completely mined out. He is mined out. He's on 2 base completely. So it's not as if Obelisk is completely dead. If he can manage to hold in any way, they're on even footing. They're both on 2 base right now, and Obelisk actually has a much larger bank, has more resources left at his natural. The thing that he is lacking right now is larvae. He only has 5 larvae. Starting to lose overlords, though, needs to pull those back. There's a Hydra Den completed, but none on the field right now, and the Muta's starting to go to town. No spore crawlers here for Obelisk, but a bunch of Mutas. And here come the Queens moving towards the ramp. The Mutas will take down those spine crawlers, and Obelisk may just be out of time here. Civilian moving in with his mass Queens. This is it for him. He is out of mining. His income is down to 220 and declining quickly, but he's got his army overrunning his opponent. Obelisk just about out of supply. Is 118 to 38. The Queens cleaning up. There are still 18 Queens on the field for Civilian, along with Mutalist and Corrupted support, taking out the Overlords, taking out the Natural, and Obelisk has left the game. Civilian manages to take that after staying on 2 base for about as long as humanly possible, and turns it around into